Hi everyone, Matteo here, welcome back in my RC garage. Thanks for watching this. Today I continue building my DC1 Scale Crawler. The main structure of the chassis is already done and the links are installed. Also the dampers are finished. The next steps are building the axles. For this the parts are in bags 7, 8 and 9. First I have to build a small bevel gear and have to do it twice. The next step is to insert the gears into the axle housing. First the bearing, then the small gear. And secure the shaft with an E-clip. Now I prepare the bigger bevel gear. I use a bit of grease and install the bigger bevel gear. Here also a bit more grease. Step 3 is to install the diff cover. And the axle housing is finished. Next I have to install the dampers on the axle. As always, do not tighten the screw too much. Now I can build the front universals. First I add the metal ring at half position. Then I add a bit of grease and put the parts together and insert the pin. Now I can move the metal ring to the correct position. And the front universal is finished. The next step is to install these into the axle. First the bearing, and then insert the shaft. Next is to install the front knuckles. Here I use also option parts, the aluminum knuckles for the CFX chassis. Here is also a small manual included and the parts are marked with A and B to make it easier to find the correct one. First the bearings. Here on the kingpin screw I use a bit of anti-wear grease. And now I can screw it on. Next is the installation of the servo holder on the axle. And step 9 is building the steering linkage. Step 10 is the installation of the steering servo. I will use this LW25MG crawler servo from Power HD. It holds with 4 screws on the servo holder. Step 11 is the installation of the steering linkage. Again, do not over-tighten the nut for a free-moving linkage. Now the linkage is installed, but I haven't installed the servo horn yet. I will do it later after I installed the electronics to get the servo neutral position. The next step is to build the rear axle. This is basically the same as on the front axle. Step 14 is the installation of the rear axle shafts. the bearing holds with 2 screws, and the dampers have to be installed. And here you can see front and rear axles are finished. Next is building the drive shafts. For this I will use this steel drive shaft set for the CFX-WS chassis. The long one fits in the back and the short one fits in front. These shafts are already finished, but I removed the screw to check if it's tightened correctly. And you can see on this screw thread lock is already applied, so this should be okay. I use a little dry lubricant on the joints to reduce friction, but dirt does not stick to this dry lubricant. As first I have to attach the drive shafts to the axles. On this screw I use a bit of Loctite. The next step is the installation of the front axle to the chassis. First I attach the upper links. Then I connect the drive shaft to the transfer case. And then install the lower links. And the last thing is the installation of the dampers. I think this is where the washers I installed in the dampers should be, but I still have 3mm washers in my spare parts box, so I can use them. And the front axle is installed. The next step is to install the rear axle, and this is pretty much the same thing as in front, so as you can see it's already done. Step 8 is the installation of the rock sliders and side plates. The rock sliders are inserted and aligned with the holes. Now I can screw it on together with the side plates. Next is the installation of the electronics. I have already soldered the wires to the motor and I'm using the Hobby Bin Quick Run 1080 speed controller. The parts are installed with double-sided tape. Also the on-off switch. And the receiver. Now the steering servo works and I can install the servo horn. It works fine now, but I had to shorten a bit the steering links. Maybe because I used the upgrade aluminum knuckles. As you can see, the function works, steering and motor turns. At this point I'm going to install the inner fenders. These are made of black painted polycarbonate and have to be cut. First I make a rough cut, and after that I cut exactly along the lines. Here the fenders are cut out, and a few holes have to be drilled. Here's a hole for the body posts, and I can peel off the protective film. I have to remove 2 screws. And then I can install the fenders with these screws. Here you can see the chassis with the attached fenders. Step 9 is building the wheels. First I install the foam inserts. Then the rims. I feel already how soft these tires are. I'm curious how they work on the trails. But at this point I'm not gluing the tires to the rims. I think I will use other rims because these ones aren't really sexy. The next step is to install the wheels on the chassis. First the pin, then the wheel hex, and then the wheel. On the rear axle a spacer have to be installed before the pin and the wheel hex. Now the chassis stands here and it's ready to roll. I turn it on. And yes, it works. So that's it for now. The next step is building the body. Stay tuned to see this in one of my next videos. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Please give me a thumbs up for this video. Thanks for watching and see you next time.